The forest was quiet that morning, almost too quiet. A thin mist hung over the sanctuary, curling through the branches like whispered memories. Birds sang soft lullabies in the distance, unaware of the moment that was about to unfold. And deep within the reserve, beneath a canopy of ancient trees, stood a giant with trembling ears and eyes full of longing. Her name was Tara. Tara wasn't like the other elephants. Rescued from a life of chains and tourist rides, she had been brought to the sanctuary a decade ago. It had taken years for her to trust again, for her spirit to slowly piece itself back together. But there was still a shadow in her eyes, a longing that even time could not erase. She remembered. Elephants never forget. The handlers called her calm, gentle. But they also said she sometimes looked beyond the trees, as if searching for something or someone. And they were right, because buried in the back of Tara's memory was a face. Not an elephant's, but a human's. A small girl with bright eyes and a flower-patterned scarf. A girl who used to sit beside her, read stories aloud, and feed her sweet mango slices during long, golden evenings. Her name had once echoed through Tara's world like music. Lila. That name was a lullaby in Tara's heart. She hadn't seen Lila in years. After Tara was sold and shipped to the city for labor, their bond had been severed. But not forgotten. Not by Tara. And that morning, something in the air shifted. The gates creaked. A new visitor group had arrived. Among the dozen strangers walking down the wooden path was a young woman in a soft yellow dress, holding a bag of fruit and a nervous smile. She didn't say much. She just walked slowly, eyes scanning the elephants as if her soul was searching. Tara didn't move. Her trunk swayed gently, then stopped. Her ears twitched, her feet rooted to the ground. And then, like the world slowed to a heartbeat, her eyes locked onto the woman's. The woman froze. The fruit bag slipped from her fingers. A mango rolled across the dirt. Tara took one step forward. The handlers grew alert, unsure of what was happening. Tara never broke the visitor boundary. But today something was different. The woman whispered something. A name. Tara. The elephant stopped mid-step. The voice. That voice. It was older, softer, but familiar. A thread pulled from a memory tapestry long tucked away. Lila took another step forward, tears spilling down her cheeks. It's me. I'm here. Tara let out a low rumble, deep and soft, like a forgotten song rising again. And then she moved. One foot, then another, until she was standing before the woman. Silence. Then, in the gentlest motion anyone had ever seen, Tara reached out her trunk and touched the scarf tied around Lila's wrist. The same flower-patterned scarf. The crowd gasped. Lila sobbed. You remembered me. And in that moment, under the green canopy of time and tears, an elephant remembered her first friend. The years melted. The pain softened. And as Tara wrapped her trunk around Lila's shoulders, the sanctuary staff looked on in stunned silence, not daring to interrupt the magic. Tara hadn't touched a visitor in years. She hadn't made a sound like that in a decade. But that day she did. She cried. A sound of grief, of joy, of reunion. And just as Lila pressed her forehead to Tara's, something else stirred in the forest. Another presence. Watching. Remembering. Because Tara wasn't the only one waiting for the past to return. To be continued. Tara stood still, her massive frame trembling with emotion as Lila gently stroked her weathered trunk. Around them, the world seemed to pause. The whispers of wind, the rustle of leaves, the breath of onlookers, all frozen in reverence. This reunion was not part of the schedule, not something you could plan or predict. It was something far more sacred. Lila never stopped crying, her tears falling freely not of sadness, but of gratitude, of disbelief that this moment, long dreamed of, was real. She spoke softly. I looked for you for so many years. I never stopped. Tara's eyes blinked slowly. The deep amber pools in her eyes were full of something more profound than words. Recognition, affection, and something akin to forgiveness. A handler approached cautiously. Ma'am, this is highly unusual. She's never acted like this with anyone. Lila nodded, still keeping one hand on Tara. We were together when I was a child. She used to live with my family before she was taken. The handler's eyes widened. He glanced at the other staff members, then back at Tara, who remained calm, even peaceful. A moment later, the lead conservationist stepped forward. If what you say is true, this could be one of the rarest reconnections we've ever documented. Elephants have remarkable memories, but this is extraordinary. They invited Lila to sit with Tara in the quiet observation area. The other tourists were gently moved along, giving space for something greater than a casual viewing. Lila sat cross-legged on the grass, as she had so many years ago. Tara lowered herself gently to the ground, a gesture of trust. It took a long time, but she finally rested her head beside Lila, who placed her hand on the elephant's cheek. "You saved me, you know," Lila whispered. "When my parents fought, I used to hide in the stable and read to you. You made me feel safe." Tara let out a low rumble, comforting, melodic, almost like a hum. For hours they sat like that, unmoving, locked in a moment stolen back from time. The next day, Lila returned early with a photo album. She sat in the field near Tara, flipping through pages, showing her old pictures. The ones they took before the world fell apart. There was one photo Tara seemed to linger on longer than the others. It was a picture of Lila, no older than 8, with her arms wrapped tightly around the elephant's neck, laughing in the sunlight. Tara leaned her trunk toward the photo and touched the image lightly, almost reverently. Lila laughed through her tears. "You really do remember," she whispered. But not all memories were joyful. As days passed, Tara began to act strangely. She paced at night, something she hadn't done in years. She let out haunting cries, not of fear, but of grief. The sanctuary team grew concerned. "She's processing," one handler said. "Sometimes reunion stirs up old trauma." Lila stayed. Every day. She spoke to Tara, fed her favorite fruits, read to her beneath the same tree where they first reconnected. But Tara's cries didn't stop. And then one morning, Lila found something buried beneath the straw in Tara's enclosure. A small, torn piece of fabric. It was faded, nearly dust, but unmistakable. A child's scarf. One with faded flowers. Lila's heart sank. She had forgotten. That scarf wasn't the one she brought. It was the original one. The one she had lost years ago. Tara had kept it all this time. Lila knelt, holding the tattered piece in her hand. "You never let go, did you?" That day, Tara didn't cry. She leaned against Lila gently and rumbled low, as if saying, "Now you know." That night, the stars shimmered with unusual brilliance. A cool breeze danced through the forest, and Lila sat with her old friend, sharing silence under the same sky they once dreamed beneath. But the silence didn't last forever, because the past, once awakened, had more to reveal. And something was coming. To be continued. The third week of Lila's stay at the sanctuary began quietly. The air was still, thick with an unspoken anticipation, as though the forest itself was holding its breath. Tara had changed. Since unearthing the old scarf, she'd become more alert, more expressive. Her energy was stronger, her steps more purposeful. Something inside her had shifted. The past no longer weighed her down. It was propelling her forward. The staff noticed. Her appetite returned. She began leading small herds again, gently guiding the younger elephants as if she had rediscovered her place in the world. But Lila sensed it wasn't over yet. One late afternoon, as amber light filtered through the leaves, a truck pulled into the sanctuary. It wasn't a scheduled delivery or a vet visit. It was a special request, arranged quietly by Lila and the conservation team after weeks of careful searching. The truck carried another elephant. He was older, taller, but frilier. His name was Covey. Covey had once been part of Tara's herd before they were separated in a devastating relocation raid nearly 20 years ago. Lila had uncovered his records while researching Tara's past. Something about a companion named Kavindra had stood out in her childhood journals. With the sanctuary's help, she tracked him to a private zoo where he had been held alone, surviving but spiritless. Now they were about to reunite. Tara stood silently as the transport gate opened. Covey stepped out slowly, his legs weak, his head low. But then, she rumbled, low and deep. It wasn't just a greeting. It was a calling. Covey's ears twitched. He lifted his head. Their eyes met, and time folded. The two giants moved toward one another with cautious steps, then faster, until they met in the center of the field. There was no hesitation, no fear. Their trunks wrapped around each other in a silent embrace as powerful as any human reunion. Lila wiped her tears. "You found him," she whispered. Tara let out a long, melodic cry, a sound the sanctuary had never heard before. It echoed across the land like a song of survival, of reunion, of homecoming. Covey responded in kind. From that moment on, Tara and Covey were inseparable. They ate side by side, bathed together, and walked the sanctuary grounds as though reclaiming the years lost. Lila stayed for another week, documenting every moment. Her childhood bond had led to a healing larger than she'd imagined. Not just for her, not just for Tara, but for Covey too. Before she left, the sanctuary held a quiet ceremony under the banyan tree. The staff shared what this reunion had meant to them, to the sanctuary, to the world. Lila spoke last. We talk about memory like it's something that fades. But some memories are stronger than pain, louder than time. Tara never forgot me. And she never forgot Covey. That's the kind of memory that heals, not just one soul, but many. She turned to Tara and placed her forehead against the elephant's one last time. Thank you for remembering me. And for helping me remember myself. As Lila walked away, suitcase in hand, Tara and Covey stood side by side watching. They didn't make a sound. They didn't need to. Because sometimes goodbye doesn't mean the end. It means the story has finally come full circle. And in the heart of the forest, where memory never dies and love leaves footprints deeper than time, an elephant remembered her first friend. And in doing so, remembered how to live again. / the end.